Coming up on News 2, a big Senate session on election reform, one that would address major issues during the 2014 election, is coming up. But before that, one lawmaker wants to hear from the public. Plus, a fugitive wanted on murder charges is returned to St. Croix after having been extradited from the state of Florida. Also, a 15-year-old missing teen has been found by police on St. Croix. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Guman-Singh. Topping our newscast, Senator Kenneth Gittens is getting ready for a big Senate session on election reform, one that would address major issues during the 2014 election. But before that, he wants to know what stakeholders think, including the public. But the series of meetings and sessions that Senator Gittens lined up is already fraught with either misunderstanding or lack of communication. News 2's April Knight has that story.
A series of very important election reform talks is coming up, but the key players seem to disagree about how it's actually going to happen. Senator Kenneth Gittens, chairman of the Senate's Rules and Judiciary Committee, is holding town hall meetings on all three islands in the middle of June.
Trying to facilitate meetings, hearing from the community, hearing from the board members, etc., before actually going through with the amended changes on the Senate floor.
Gittens said the meetings are supposed to be informal working sessions. They would involve lawmakers, the Board of Elections, and election system staff. On Tuesday, Arturo Watlington wrote a letter in behalf of the St. Thomas St. John Election Board, refusing the closed-door meeting that Senator Gittens suggested, but the senator said that he might have used the wrong word there.
It did say closed door, however, closed door just mean it should have said off-camera meeting. Closed door probably wasn't the right terminology to use.
Watlington said there's been no conversation, at least with the St. Thomas members, on the proposed amendments to Title 18 that Gittens wants to address.
That's one of the problems. If we're going to go into a meeting to discuss legislation, we should know what we want to amend and how we want to amend the legislation. So we want structure. You can't just put 20 people in a room and say, oh, we want election reform.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Now, the town hall meetings are June 15th on St. John, June 16th on St. Thomas, and June 17th on St. Croix. We'll have more as the dates approach. The Senate Committee on Health and Hospitals heard testimony Wednesday from Health and Environmental Office on two hot topics. One of them was the Red Mud Project, and Senator Kurt Vealy called the hearing to get an update. News 2's Erica Parsons has more.
The project to cover the red mud is underway. Years of bauxite mining caused a contamination of St. Croix's South Shore. That's a concern for the community.
I'm really sick and tired of seeing those 2 areas being affected and the residents continuously having to deal with those issues.
The cleanup began last year after the VI government won a lawsuit from several industrial companies. Environmental officials testified there are roughly 200 acres of property to address. Area A is roughly 150 acres. It's being covered now.
They graded the red mud. Then they have a layer of geotextile fabric on top, a black fabric. On top of that, they're going to have caliche. And then they're going to put a mixture of topsoil and compost. And then they will vegetate that.
Area B, while only 50 acres, poses the bigger challenge. That area has the potential for ground seepage, and it's not been addressed yet.
We're still in the process of developing the plan for Area B.
Health officials also testified Wednesday. Lawmakers were concerned that local agencies haven't collected any data or tracked any cases to determine the health impact to residents.
It's time to put those issues to rest and time for us to have a solution. And through my committee, I'm going to be pushing for that. I'm going to be pushing these entities to make sure that they do the regulatory powers that they have invested in that.
We're going to be going into negotiations with the settling defendant and starting in June to discuss how we're going to move forward with mitigating the impacts that the residents have suffered. So it is DPNR's plan to go ahead and memorialize an agreement that would involve cleaning up of the cisterns and the areas.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
Meanwhile, senators also heard testimony from the environmental and health officials on the rum fungus issue on Wednesday. Also, 16 students who made the principal's honor roll from the Alexander Henderson and Elena Christian schools spent the day at the Senate. The students attended that hearing, and then Senator Novelle Francis honored them with a little pizza party and certificates, acknowledging their hard work.
Students got to see the process in terms of the legislature in action, as well as to be able to have a meal together. We have a little pizza party honoring those students that were able to make the principal honor roll. So I'm certainly happy. I'm very proud of our public school students, and I want to publicly commend those that's not here today. And I've provided a certificate for each and every one of them. And you know that the numbers out there are large in terms of other students that also receive honors this year, but we have to support our public school, and certainly being a product of the public school system, I'm always glad for the opportunity to do just that.
Congratulations to the students. Now, the Senate's budget process will get underway this month. Starting next week, central government agencies will go before senators to defend their fiscal year 2016 budget. Governor Kenneth Mapp submitted the executive budget on Friday, and Senate Finance Committee Chair Clifford Graham said he was pleased it was submitted on time. The process takes 3 months, and Graham said having the budget on time gives senators and their staff ample time to analyze the numbers and develop a mental framework before proceeding with budget hearings. Budget hearings should wrap on August 31st. In crime news, earlier today, a fugitive from justice, Javon T.S. Duparle, wanted on murder charges, returned to St. Croix after having been extradited from the state of Florida. Duparle was wanted in relation to the murder of Andy Peters that occurred in June of 2013 in the Lorraine Village Apartments in Fredericksted. Javon Duparle had been arrested in Orange County on a concealed weapon and narcotics possession charge. And while being processed, it was discovered by the Orange County Police that Duparle was wanted in the Virgin Islands. Marian Batista, the 15-year-old runaway miner from St. Thomas, has been found by police on St. Croix. Batista was last seen on May 8, 2015 at her residence in Estate 22 on St. Thomas, and last contacted her mother saying that she was with her boyfriend on St. Croix, not giving any indication as to who he was or where she was staying. Well, police on St. Thomas issued the notice on Tuesday, June 3rd, and this morning, Wednesday, June 3rd, at 10 a.m., police found the runaway miner at the Candido Guadalupe housing community located in Estate Slob. She was turned over to the Department of Human Services. Chief District Court Judge Wilma Lewis sentenced Abdallah, 24, on Monday to 7 years in prison for a firearms charge. According to court records, on or about December 24, 2013, in the Estate Strawberry area of St. Croix, Abdallah intentionally drove a brown Chevy Malibu in front of a red Focus driven by the victim. The passenger in the front seat of the car driven by Abdallah got out, walked towards the red Focus, and pointed a gun at the victim's head, told him to get out. The victim complied as the individual with the gun got into the victim's car. Abdallah then drove off, followed by the individual in the victim's car, according to the court documents. The Coast Guard is warning the public that pointing handheld lasers at Coast Guard boat and air crews is dangerous and illegal. There have been about 3 instances of lasers targeting Coast Guard assets in just the past 3 weeks. There were no reported injuries. However, pointing a laser at an aircraft is a federal crime. If found guilty, offenders could be fined up to $250,000 and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Laser pointers are inexpensive to obtain and can extend over 2 miles in range. Pilots affected by laser strikes regularly report temporary effects in vision, including after-image, flash blindness, and temporary loss of night vision. Keeping our eye on the economy, here's the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. As we can see there, everything up, the Dow 64, NASDAQ 22, S&P 4. Coming up on News 2, much more straight ahead. Be sure to stick around. We are also welcoming home some members of the military police detachment. That's coming up next, as well as the full moon. What's that all about? Well, a big welcome home to members of the 661st Military Police Detachment. The soldiers were deployed in support of the war on terrorism and they returned early this evening to the open arms of family, friends, and supporters, as well as members of the Military Police Family Readiness Group. And now welcome back home. Big thanks there for the pictures courtesy of Mr. Biggs and Dallas Walwyn. Another St. Croix High School senior has earned the distinction of Eagle Scout. Darrell Donahue Jr. will be recognized during an Eagle Court of Honor ceremony on Sunday at the Good Hope Country Day School where he attends. Donahue is a member of Troop 7227. He had to earn 21 merit badges and complete a community service project, which involved clearing a property and doing research for St. Croix Environmental. Donahue is the 18th scout from his troop to achieve Eagle Scout. The Antilles School ball field turned into a rocket launch pad on Wednesday. Their 6th grade students mixed classroom learning with ingenuity, resourcefulness, and some really complicated physics to create viable rockets out of plastic bottles. And the results blew us away.
We run a TI microcontroller that has an onboard barometric sensor. And so once the pressure changes, it detects apogee, and then it turns this little servo motor, which releases our rubber bands, which trigger our parachute.
3, 2, 1, go! We had to do simulations to find out how high it would go. I feel really good.
Congrats to the students there. Adelita Cairncrine students and staff gathered at the Marriott's Frenchman's Reef on Wednesday, where they were honored by Rotary of St. Thomas II. Math teacher Anika Claxton won the first runner-up award for Educator of the Year. Clayton White won the coveted Educator of the Year award. Monet Edmead's essay on the 4-way test won her first runner-up. The big award for Best Student Essay went to Jamari Clark, and here's an excerpt of his speech.
There are more opportunities for everyone just by following this guide. If everyone would apply the principle of the Rotary 4-way test to choices in their everyday life, they would be able to help others, nurture better relationships with their peers, promote a meaningful career, and build a better world.
Job well done. Well, the West Indian Company Limited hosted participants in the UVI Global Institute for Leadership and Management Development on Tuesday. 13 students and 3 reps met with WICO's president and CEO, Joseph Bishelti, who was one of several invited guest speakers over the course of the 2-week program. Bishelti provided an overview of the company, cruise tourism, and the economy, as well as the marine industry. Now, the program is designed to benefit current and future leaders looking to significantly develop and extend their leadership and management skills. Participants are undergraduate and graduate students of varying age and experience who hail from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and the U.S. Were you a part of the culinary experience of a lifetime? The Ultimate Flavors of the Virgin Islands, presented by Banco Popular, was held last Friday at Frenchman's Reef and Morningstar Marriott Beach Resort on St. Thomas. There was a wide selection of food and drinks from the U.S. Virgin Islands' best restaurants and cooking demos from guest celebrity chefs. Ultimate Flavors is a cultural exchange that showcases the best of the island's cuisine. It also serves as a platform to prepare the next generation of worthy chefs. Proceeds go to local programs that fund students, education in culinary arts through the USVI's Department of Education. Well, be sure to join the Caribbean Advertising Federation as they celebrate the USVI winners of the 2015 Caribbean Addy Awards and the national finalist winners of the District Addy Award. A cocktail reception is planned on Thursday at Hook, Line, and Sinker. You can see the gold and best of show Addy Reel, featuring winners from Barbados, Jamaica, Grand Cayman, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the Virgin Islands. All are welcome, but you must reserve. The American Advertising Federation, the American Advertising Awards honor excellence in advertising and cultivate the highest creative standards in the industry. It is the largest creative awards competition in the advertising industry, and you can call MLB for more information. Well, the moon was a full one on Tuesday, June 2nd, if you look up, coinciding with the Mercury retrograde. Some call it the strawberry moon. It's known as a strawberry moon thanks to the Algonquin tribes because it coincided with the best time to pick the fruit. Now, June's full moon is also sometimes called a honeymoon or a full rose moon. The moon stays close to the horizon in June, and that makes it appear more amber. According to astronomers, the moon will appear full for the next several nights because it will remain more or less opposite the sun, according to Earth sky. Each month's full moon has a title. Well, be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.